switch to manage worlds. Now, as you can see, City of Darwin, here we are. We're going to pause that. I'm going to lift it all the way up. Now, the City of Darwin, do I need to repeat, is a dystopia, right? This is a futuristic dystopia, kind of set in the year 2075. I was inspired by Cyberpunk 2077, nod to Cyberpunk. I love that game, by the way. This is the City of Darwin. It is a civic, setup, right? It's a civic structure, but there's no real civic authority in the City of Darwin. You have 3 groups in Darwin. You have 2 competing kind of major groups. You have this group here in the shape of a cross known as the Anointed. You have this group here, which is the Techno Union, nod to Star Wars. I love Star Wars, so I named them the Techno Union. They are a sort of a conglomeration or amalgamation of a large group of corporations. So they are like a mega corporation. So like when you have a whole bunch of mega corporations and they all merge, that's what you get with them. And we'll go into detail on each of these groups as we tour. And then group number 3 is everybody else. So you have the people at the top, you have the people at the bottom, typical for a dystopian the Anointed here. Now, the Anointed are basically generational wealth, right? And I mean extreme generational wealth. And the idea, or what they've fallen back on, is the idea that has been used numerous times by generational wealth through history, that they're anointed. I mean, basically, God has put them in this position of wealth and power. That's why they were born where they were born. Everybody is born where they are destined to be born as God sees fit and places them there. Right? Right. So don't be mad because they are incredibly wealthy and have more money than you'll ever imagine, while you live maybe over here in the old sanctuary district as a homeless person. No, just understand that God has a plan. And like most of those, let me stop real quick too. I use the building in the shape of a cross and I use the word God interchangeably. When it comes to these people, when it comes to the Anointed, who knows what God they're putting forward? They use the cross only because it's a recognizable religious symbol. The people that belong to the Anointed probably aren't even that religious. I mean, I think they buy their own bullshit. But as far as religion goes, whether or not they would practice or preach anything even remotely like Christianity, probably not. Probably not. They're preaching something that is completely self-serving. Now, the argument can be made that a lot of religions are self-serving, but in this case, this would go to the absolute nth degree of self-serving. So don't worry about the cross. Don't worry about the term God. It really doesn't have anything to do with probably any religion that we would recognize. But like a lot of religions, the idea is that if you're good, right? If you do what you're told, if you follow the rules, if you please God, then you stand a chance of joining the Anointed here in their cross-shaped building. Now, the interesting thing you'll see as we tour through here is that, like here at the front borders their, shopping mall. Here at the front, there's no door, right? And that's how it is around the whole building. The whole building, there is no obvious entrance to this building. So even though the weekly sermon might preach that you stand a chance, you're never going to find a way into this building. Now, in reality, as a player, you can, if you want to use the building in some fashion for storytelling or playing, there's a way in. I put a way in these other buildings here. In this particular apartment, there is a way down that really long hallway. Once you get past reception area and these security robots, then you are into the building. I don't know if the robots actually work there. I haven't tested that yet. I haven't gotten them working, but that's what they're there. If you somehow did get into their organization and you did make your way up through it, you might end up with one of these apartments, which might be seen as better than being homeless, or other parts of Darwin, the City of Darwin. This is an apartment for 2 people because it has a double bed. But as you can see, it's pretty compact. I basically based this idea on the sort of pod housing in Japan. And in fact, when I edit this and put it up as a tour, not a live stream, but a regular tour, I'll put a picture of that with it. But the pod housing in Japan were like these little small cube-shaped sort of rooms, right? Basically meant for one person, I think, or maybe two, and they had those round windows. So I put round windows here to kind of recall that idea. You just do exceptionally well, you might end up in one of these apartments, which is a 2-story townhouse, right? And this is a family apartment. This is meant for a family. So mom and dad would be upstairs. The kids would basically just sleep downstairs, either on the floor, or I guess you could imagine that the sofa would pull out there. So even though it is just 1 bedroom, that would be seen as a family apartment in the city of Darwin. I didn't decorate all of them. I only decorated one. I did decorate, I think, most of these little ones. Here in the front, like I said, you've got kind of their shopping mall, their shopping arcade, I call it. Most of the shopping with the Anointed is vending machines, right? So you come up, you order your food or your material, your bits and baubles, right? From a machine, can kind of hang out here. In theory, this area is open to the public, right? That's a theory. This is a public shopping center. This is a public shopping arcade. In practice, of course, if you don't really measure up to the clientele they're looking for here, so close to the Anointed area, chances are someone's going to come and escort you, to a different area. This is probably what's going to happen. They do allow some of the public to come here. I mean, on sermon days, the leader or the pastor or whatever they may call him would stand up from this chair with the other leaders around him and stand forward and give a sermon here in front of an angel, delivering salvation in the form of the Sims to the masses. So, I mean, it would be okay for them to gather here to watch that because they do want you to watch it. They do want you to hear it. They do want you to believe it, even more so, because the last thing they want and the one thing they are more afraid of than anything else is that you're going to decide that maybe they're full of shit. And maybe they shouldn't have all of that money and all of that wealth. We can't do a 100-story building with 100 apartments in it, so I did one. This is the apartment. It's got a very large, entertaining area, kind of a ballroom, dance floors here, food here, conversation area here, lots of bathrooms, and a kitchen that's mostly designed for a caterer. You do have 1 bedroom on this level, and then when you get to the next level, you've got 2 bedrooms here, a living area, and a dining area. Now, the one thing to notice is, of course, wealth in this society buys space. So this is an apartment for 1 family, maybe just a couple with 1 child, and they've got a lot of space. Money buys space. Money buys power, right? Power in this society is power. So this building, of course, these buildings are all lit up. They've got plenty of money to spend on electricity. They've got plenty of money to spend on power. And in fact, of course, here, this is the poorest area of town. This is the one most ripe for rebellion. They've got a giant lit cross to remind them that they are powerful. Power is power here in the city of Darwin. The next group we have is here in these type of buildings. They are the Techno Union. Now, as I said, they're an amalgamation of different corporations. They kind of masquerade behind this term union and what union used to mean, right? Union was for the workers. Union was for the people who were coming into work and kind of slaving away every day. In this case, it is a union of a sort. You do have to join if you want to work for any of the companies that fall under this umbrella. You do have to join the union. And in order to join the union, you not only have to apply, but you have to pay before you get the job, right? So basically, they've come up with this idea that you'll pay them to work for them, right? You'll pay in order to have an opportunity to get a job. And I kind of took that idea from an article I read before about gangs and drug dealers, where often these street level dealers, the guys at the street level, the ones who get arrested the most often, they actually pay the upper dealers or the leader of the gangs in whatever area they're in for the privilege of working for them to sell their drugs at the street level, because that's their only way in, right? So they actually will pay those people a fee in order to go to work for them. So the idea here, of course, is that corporations are a little better than a gang in this particular society. Secondary building first. One thing you can say about the Techno Union is if you can afford to buy your way in, you probably stand a better chance of getting ahead with them as a corporation or as a group of corporations. They're going to be more apt to reward you for good work, for hard work, than, say, the Anointed, right? Because the Anointed don't manufacture or make anything. They do sell stuff, but most of their wealth comes from investments, right? The Techno Union does need people who are bright thinkers and hard workers. So you stand a better chance of getting ahead with the Techno Union, but you still have to pay them to work for them and get a way in. This would be an apartment for someone who's done really well in the Techno Union. Again, there's a lot of similarities with the Anointed. You've got just one bedroom. If you have kids, they're going to sleep out here, right? This is a family apartment, but it is pretty spacious. It's not as spacious as the Anointed apartment. It's probably as spacious, though, as one of these towers over here, which is what it's more close to, though. So, yeah, it's probably as spacious as one of those tower apartments. And you've got a full kitchen. You've got a dining area. Dropping down, I did not do all of the apartments. I did the top one, and then I did these smaller apartments. So down here, you have different levels. This is the smallest, definitely a studio unit. Small seating area, not a real kitchen. You can microwave stuff. You can eat fridge food, and you can go out here to the vending machines and pay the people you work for the food that you probably just manufactured earlier that day. This is a slightly bigger version of that apartment. Pull up here and try to keep this still for a second. Slightly bigger version of that apartment. Again, you've got a bed. You've got a living area. You've got a private bathroom in both cases. Now, the bathrooms are small. It's a toilet and a shower, and if you need to use a sink, that's outside, right? That's outside in the kitchen area. And then you have kind of a small one bedroom, right? But again, this would work as a family apartment in this society. You've got a place for mom and dad. You've got a place for the kids. You still don't really have a kitchen. You still have a microwave and a refrigerator. It's more like a hotel, but you've got that. This would be very desirable if you work for the Techno Union. If you can land one of these apartments and you get to that level, you're probably going to be pretty happy compared to the rest of the city of Darwin. Of course, very luxurious. They have what they call a lawn, right? So this would be very desirable. You have a real lawn with real grass and real bushes, something that is incredibly unique and unheard of in this particular society. You have your own lawn. You can brag to your friends. I live in that building with the lawn. Yes, I do. And it's got two, one on each side. Got a beautiful lobby, a lot of space. Again, wealth equals space. Unlike the Anointed, you could live in this building in a smaller apartment, right? So this is a pretty small apartment, and you could have a much larger unit over in the other building. But if you want to live in this building with the lawn, then you could get this size apartment. You could even do a family in this apartment again, because kids would sleep here, mom and dad sleep here. Not a lot of privacy. Maybe you're going to give the kids some Benadryl in this society, so they'll be sure and go out the night you want to try to make another kid. But, and I say that in all jest. Remember, we're talking about a dystopia here. Next to it is a bedroom that's actually tied, though, to the larger apartment, to the executive apartment. In the executive apartment, you're going to have, a dining room, a full kitchen here. You have a guest bath, a real guest bath, and a living area. Up here on the second floor, you've got a large bedroom, right? A large master bedroom, seating area, a place where you could have an office, place to sleep, and a large bathroom. kind of open concept bathroom. Actually, there's an office there. Kind of a large, open concept bathroom. This is a modern apartment. So quite large. And then down here, you've got your secondary bedroom number 2 for that apartment. So if you have a family in this apartment, the kids can have their own real bedroom. And then this building is done up with this sort of extravagant top, right? Part of the sort of interaction of these two groups in this town of Darwin as they compete with each other is for height, right? Kind of taken from the city of, I think it was Verona, where two families competed with each other, building taller and taller towers. So what they did was they built this just so they could kind of be higher than the anointed, right? They built this tower really tall so they would stand up above the anointed. Now, while it is easier to get ahead with the techno union, I'll say this, if you're a high-level techno union executive, your kids don't have to buy into the union. Yeah, their legacy into the union, so they don't have to buy their way in, and they're going to automatically start with a higher position at a corporation. So in its own way, it's also a generational wealth type of setup. I mean, once you're in, once you're established, once you're at the top, chances are you're going to stay at the top and your kids are going to stay at the top. And someone trying to break into the top, good luck. Good luck, right? It's a really kind of frozen system. Would be a park. It's got this parkland here, kind of an Asian themed park, just kind of plopped on top of these other buildings. My thought is that they probably didn't even ask permission of the owners of those other buildings. They probably just came in and built it, right? They connected with bridges, so you don't actually have to go downstairs to get over to it. And it is extremely isolated from the rest of the community up above everyone else. But that's considered very desirable, of course. And a good reason to join the techno union instead of the anointed, right? Right. Now, you have everybody else. Everybody else. We're going to start with the poorest people in this poor city. They live over here in the, people call it either the sanctuary, district, or the old sanctuary district, kind of this sort of temple here. Let me get out of build mode so we can see it better. Here we go. Kind of this old sanctuary, kind of an old temple feel, right? Long abandoned. This garden or park next to it's just a, ruined wasteland. They do still have some, retail over here with this sort of shop, but everyone's pretty much homeless. I mean, you're going to have a lot of shanty housing like this, right? This is definitely their shanty town. You've got a lot of garbage. No one ever collects garbage in this neighborhood. This idea that even though this is one story, to try to make it look like there's actually two stories here, right? To give it this false sense and idea of a more urban area with higher buildings. You've got some just scattered places to sleep. This is someone's house, right? They sleep on the bench. This is their privacy screen. That's as good as it gets in this neighborhood. Over here in the sanctuary itself, it's a decaying structure. It used to be a religion. There's probably still some sort of religious text here. I don't know, would people still come here to see it? I don't know. One part of me says yes, that people do still use this. And I'll tell you why in a minute. I kind of set it up that way. But another part of me says no, because they probably can't read. That may sound awful, but in this neighborhood, in this part of town, they probably can't read. They're probably mostly illiterate. So there you go. Inside the sanctuary itself, it's mostly a run, a lot of garbage. And then down here again, you've got someone's home again, kind of tucked in here. Maybe the guy that owns this place, We'll kind of swing around here. Now, as I mentioned before, power is power. What you'll see here is there's the only electricity really in this area is that. The propaganda from the wealthy people that abut this area to remind them to stay in line, lest they, suffer for all eternity or lest they be stuck in this position forever. Everyone else in this area, and then there's a few ancient kind of streetlights that still function. Everyone else in this area, though, would use just candles, pretty much, right? And then I did leave one electrical light fixture here. I might stick like a solar panel on the roof of this place or something to kind of imply where the electricity is coming for that. Because really, I kind of like the idea of like, the only power the people in this district have is what was given to them by this other group. And it was only given to them as a means of controlling them. It was only given to them to remind them of who's in power, to remind them of who has the power. Now, it doesn't always work. And this is why I think these people still worship at this sanctuary and worship maybe another, perhaps more legitimate religion, is because you can see they've thrown stuff all over that building, right? They don't like the people that live in this building. They covered it with graffiti, but I think this stuff here is just evidence of they just throw stuff at it, just like who knows what. I mean, I think probably human waste, animal waste. Even the windows are covered with it. You can see here they actually managed to crack one of the windows. Maybe these people put the cross up after they started cracking the windows. Because again, I mean, it's real tempting. All you have to do is break out that window and then everything inside that building suddenly is accessible, right? You only have to get through that one relatively weak barrier. The people here inside this building, by the way, they have put up curtains so that they don't actually have to see part of what they help create. And they've got curtains here as well. The place where they don't have curtains is going to be on this side. The idea is, of course, to create these gardens so that they have something to look at. And as they manage to create them by walling off a part of the neighborhood that they don't actually own, they just kind of commandeer, then they'll take the curtains down. My guess is, though, in this part of town, it's going to be really hard to get enough security to actually convince anyone to help you build that wall. Help you build that wall and put in that garden. Over on this side, you're going to get into a little bit more, still extremely poor, and they're still in the midst of crushing poverty, but a little more successful, and they're not entirely homeless in this area. There is an old sanctuary here that is still maintained. There's still some garbage around, but it's still maintained. Someone is still using it. Someone's still maintaining it. People in this area obviously take care of it, but you still got some signs of homelessness. You got this sort of area, sort of stuff like that, right? Back here, even more so. You've got someone's kind of set up sort of a makeshift kind of house, right? As you get further along into this sort of area, you can see a little bit more, not bourgeois, because they're not bourgeois, but you can see a little bit more like someone owns something here, right? Someone owns a shop. They own kind of a junk shop that they have built using the wall of this building that was added on. There's, kind of weird things in this area. I think of this, I talked about the illiteracy, right? The literacy rate's probably really low. This is kind of an altar, again, to maybe a newer religion where people are kind of worshiping books because they're very mysterious. They don't really know what's in them. And when you don't know something, when you don't know what something is, you get more maybe respect for it. I don't know. That's my thought on that. There's sort of this idea of an altar to books and knowledge, and sort of this worship of a knowledge that they don't even have and can't read and can't understand, but it's there. Then back here, you have a sort of shopping arcade, right? So you've got a couple of restaurants back here. You've got this shop. That's a magic shop, right? Like a wand. I think it's a wand shop that I put in from Realm of Magic. It will work. You can hire someone to do it, to man it. So you've got a little mysticism kind of tied in there. And the restaurants work as well. And if you don't want to hire someone to run a restaurant, I put a little hot pot out here, so your Sims can eat that way. Again, though, you can see it's pretty filthy. They're not big fans of this building either. It's kind of filthy. They've kind of thrown stuff at it. Over here is another sort of random altar. It's an altar to Baby Yoda, right? They don't remember who he is. They just know that he's extremely wise and extremely powerful. So we've got this altar to Baby Yoda going on, some wind chimes. Someone left, a golden basket of fruit, stuff like that. So you've got that area. There's a lot of, right here is a good example of the sort of giving the impression of more floors than actually exist. So in this case, this is the first floor, and then this would be above it. These areas here are not accessible. All right. So I gave them the appearance of having windows, kind of at least of some fashion. And basically what they are is my version in this world of coffin housing. So in Hong Kong, you have a sort of phenomena known as coffin housing, right? Where people literally live in a space about the size of a coffin. It'd be kind of on par with maybe capsule hotels in Tokyo as well. These people just climb up a ladder. They climb up this ladder back here. You can see it there. They climb up that ladder. They can't really do that, but in this world, they would climb up that ladder and maybe even have to crawl down to this space and just roll into a bed. And it's someplace to spend the night. It's someplace where they can hang out for the night. They're going to roll into that bed. They're going to hang out. And you get the idea. You get this impression of, a higher floor, more than just the first floor. There's some empty space around here that you can do with as you will. This one leads to a nightclub, an underground nightclub. We'll look at that in a little bit. Area, you've got there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in the city of Darwin in this era. But you've got kind of a food place tucked in the remains of this warehouse. Tucked in a little bathroom back here. Again, looks like sort of they put a wall up so you have a little bit of privacy, right? It's kind of gross. Kind of got some garbage on the floor. But the sort of myth of it all, the sort of myth of the city, comes more in back here, where you've got some sort of, nutcase living back here, conspiracy nutcase. This is his house, he's got a place to set fire to things, got some knives conveniently located for home security. And then up here, I like to think this is probably kind of what that person is worshiping, is the remains of an old laboratory, right? Why would you need cages in an old laboratory? Well, the Techno Union does certain experimentation on things that they may not want people to know about. So they'll set up these kind of fly-by-night laboratories where you're going to come in, you're going to set up your laboratory, you're going to get your sort of experiments out of the way, and then you're just going to abandon it. Because even though there's not a civic authority, not a true civic authority, sometimes you have vigilante type authorities, and especially in this neighborhood where the people are not crushingly poor. I mean, they live in a pretty rundown part of society, but they do operate businesses. They operate restaurants. They operate junk stalls. Some of them work for the corporate, techno union. Some of them probably work for the anointed. The anointed still need, accountants, housekeepers, janitors, stuff like that. So once they catch on that there's a lab like this in their neighborhood, they probably swarm it themselves and, kill everybody who's in here, kill all the scientists. But the idea of the scientists, of course, is they get done and get out fast enough. They don't get caught and killed. That'd be the idea. Now, off to this side, we'll take a look at some of the housing. This is going to be a very, very low income housing in this area, but big enough. It's private. It's indoors. It's not homeless. There should be a toilet here. It's missing the toilet. I must have forgot to put it. We're going to put a toilet in real quick, in fact, while we're here. That in there. It's got a shower. It's got a basic kitchen. Right. Down here on the first floor, you have kind of a larger place, Uh, is it nicer? Well, it's bigger. It's bigger, that's for sure. It's got a little living area, a little office, a bedroom, and a somewhat nicer bathroom, right? Again, this would be a family space. The parents have their room. The kids have their room. We've got another apartment a lot like that over here. This one might be considered even a little bit nicer than those other two. It's not too bad, you know. A lot of space. It's got a full kitchen. Fancy. It's got a full kitchen. But really run down appliances. You know, probably going to set the place on fire. But it's got a full kitchen. It's got a bathroom back over here. A full bathroom. It's got a nice bedroom, right? It has a loft-style bedroom. It's a little bit harder with privacy, but, you know, there you go. Next to it is an empty space where you kind of build out whatever you wanted to. So, up on top, there is some sort of walkways that have been built in after the fact. There is a ladder that leads from down here, so you could kind of come in from this direction. Go up the ladder, use this room for something, or cut across to this apartment area. Right. Okay. So that leaves us essentially with just our last area, which is starting to get a little hoarse here. It is the Plaza District, right? A very old part of town. I've done this again where I made kind of a false second floor so that you get the impression that the buildings are bigger than they actually are, so that we can have something that looks like a 6-story building or it would be a 6-story building or an 8-story building. Same thing is done here, you know, to give the idea of 2 levels for just one. This area, though poor, is actually pretty nice. I mean, you've got a lot of advertising, but you've got a locally owned kind of restaurant area here. Again, with that sort of false second floor. You've got this place, which is a kind of a shopping arcade run by corporations naturally. Now, it's really clean, though. This particular corporation prides themselves, you know, on the cleanliness of their facilities. It's hard to keep it up. Some garbage is blown in here, back over in these areas, of course. But they do send someone around to clean it up regularly, so that, you know, it's more pleasing. And you've got an old statue to something, and, you know, that's it. Just kind of a rundown sort of space, shopping arcade, right? Got an old altar to something stuck in there, and a lot of kind of narrow, let's get through here, kind of narrow alleyways leading to other areas. Now, I said before, this nicer shopping arcade is technically public, but I did put these walls here, these rails on purpose. Again, that's to kind of give the impression of this area here, this poor area, being in jail. You know, even though that is public, you're not really supposed to go past those bars. You know, that delineates where you stop. You know, you're not really welcome past that point in this society. But again, you have another sort of, alleyway there. Thought it'd be cool to put a little tea shop there. I did not put a tea shop there, but it might be cool if you wanted to do that. Got some other sort of tight, narrow areas back here, right? And that's it. That is the city of Darwin in a nutshell, you know. It is huge. It is a giant build. It is really huge. Seriously, when you go to put it into place, if you should download it, and it will be available on the gallery. Coming up, not too long after this stream, I'm going to add this particular thing's just floating in space. I might add that here in a second before I forget. We'll put some inlaid trim on it. There we go. So that takes care of that. Doesn't look like it's floating any longer. It's kind of suspended there. Upload it to the gallery and then call it good for tonight. Right. Let's see. There we go. Put the freeze. The freeze is easy. The freeze is easy to put in place. What's hard, of course, are these sort of panels from Journey to Batu. And they're not hard. It's just tedious doing this all the way, around this building. Sort of extravagant effect because it's gold and it's lit up and, it looks carved and heavily ornamented and just gives this impression of, people who have the money. People have the money to spend on ornamentation because, normal people in this town, everybody else, the third group, everybody else, they don't have the money to really spend much on ornamentation. They're pretty much just scraping together, kind of leftover scraps as it is to build something. So, and did that do it? Did I do it correctly? I hope so. Okay, it was just that one part. Okay, so that's it. Right. We've got the city of Darwin, 2075 here, laid out in all its glory. Let's see here. I like it better, of course, at night with the lights on. And that's it. We're going to go ahead and load this up here. Save the lot. $400,000. It's all yours. Okay, that was quick. All right, and that's it. That's the City of Darwin live stream tour. But in the meantime, for now, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Please hit like, subscribe, and notify. And we'll talk to you later.